Steve, it's really nice to meet you. I'm sure one of the hottest topics that you kind of get asked about as you work with a variety of different marketers and folks in the industry on this concept of integrated marketing is, how is AI going to change what we do? How do you answer that question?
That is such a it's such a complex question because it's such a complex answer, right? Traditional marketing, will traditional marketing get disrupted by AI? I think that's a big question. I think AI, whether we know it, feel it, like it or not, is in everything we do as marketers. Programmatic buying, right, is AI, right? It's machine learning, the measurement of campaigns. Also, there's major AI elements to it. I think where it really can penetrate and impact a marketer's strategy is around creative development. I think creative development is ripe for disruption, and I think the ability to create ads more at scale, getting the quality there. The quality is probably not quite there,
yeah,
but we're getting there. Being able to add to your ad library. I mean, if you're running on TikTok or Instagram, Snapchat, like, you need dozens, if not hundreds of videos, and it costs a lot to create those. If you can do that all with AI, that's cost savings that will really help you in the long run. We're in the process of kind of getting there. We're not there yet. I also think with creative, I think you also need the human touch a little bit.
Yeah.
So you can't just give it all to AI. But I also think I think there's the something we talked about earlier was targeting and targeting the right customer, and targeting the right customer with the right ad and creating this personalized ad experience. That's been happening, right? Everybody sees it, Instagram, Facebook, like that happens. But for us as marketers, there's privacy restrictions, there's data restrictions, there's closed off, walled gardens that make it hard to reach the customer, make it hard to personalize the experience to that customer because of it. And so, when we talk about personalization at scale and how AI is going to do that, it can't fully do it. And I think that's something that that every marketer wishes and wants. But the reality is it's just not, it's maybe never going to get there with the way that, the way that, we're kind of, restricted in what we can do.
Yeah, no, I think just to kind of amplify some of your points, people think that AI started on November 30th, 2022, when ChatGPT came out. But to your point, like programmatic advertising, recommendations, all of these things are all the form of AI. And especially the advertising industry has been doing that for quite some time. The privacy issues you talk about are very real, right? And how do you help your marketers who kind of ask you about these things? What advice do you give them? Because data on the one hand can be very powerful and very useful. And as a consumer, I want my experience to be personalized. It's actually good for me when it's done the right way. So what advice do you give to marketers to do it thoughtfully or taking all these considerations into account?
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky because we have robust first-party data, right? We have over 85 million customers, and I know their credit, right?
Right.
And I know where they stand, from at least from a credit score, credit report perspective, and the power of that data is super valuable, right? And even though there are the restrictions that we talked about, you're in a better place if you have that kind of data. And so I think my advice is always around really know your data, figure out how to use your data, and then, between that, from that, then it's like, okay, how do you segment?
Right.
How do you use it how do you experiment with it? And I think there's a tons of ways to do it. I mean, I think you're restricted in some places, but you're not in others. And those, you have to kind of lean into the places you can do it. But yeah, I think data is the one key to unlock every strong marketing campaign.
Yeah, because one thing is for sure, right? Like ChatGPT or OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, all these companies, yes, they have a lot of public data on which they've trained their LLMs, but the customer's data is proprietary.
Correct.
And it's only the customer who has access to it. And to your point, I think it behooves them to make the most of it and to use it thoughtfully as they think about personalized targeting or advertising and things like that.
Right.
I want to come back to one more thing you said, which is the human touch, right? You mentioned creatives, and yeah, every marketer, brand marketer in particular that I've spoken to, has always been resistant to embrace AI creatives wholeheartedly because they're concerned about, well, is my brand going to be represented correctly? Even starting from mundane things like colors to things like, is the tone going to be correct? Is the messaging going to be on brand? So expanding that a bit, how do you see the role of humans evolve in this ever-changing, ever-increasing AI world that we start to live in now? Will humans go away? Will jobs go away? Like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think marketing is emotional. It's part emotional. I think the data is a part of it. That, yeah, could that go away or fully change? Yes. I think a really strong campaign is, can be instinctual. Like, I know that this audience is going to work because my product fits this group. I know that this creative should be this way because, I know my business. I know this audience. I think it's, something that we heard at Cannes was that AI is going to be there and it's going to disrupt the creative process, but it's going to also serve as like this co-pilot that creatives are going to get better because of AI. And so they, yes, the creatives have to be there. Maybe you don't need as many of them. Maybe you don't need as many tools, but like you have the opportunity to have this large language model that knows everything, that can think about all the things that you don't think about and spit out dozens, if not hundreds, of different variations of ad copy that you can plug into different ads and campaigns. And, so it's like the human has to be there, but like the role of it is just a little bit different. And again, I mean, it should support, it shouldn't hinder.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you think about the end to end, you mentioned creatives, right? Because that's where life begins for a new ad campaign, if you will, or even content for that matter. But as you go further down that spectrum from creative generation to ad creation to campaign management and all of that, where are you seeing the most impact of, like, are people adopting these AI driven workflow tools for campaign management, campaign optimization, etc.?
Yes, I think, there's, again, complex question, complex answer, right? There's multiple ways to do it. I mean, I think there's ways to just make everything you do more efficient. Like we have tools in place built by AI that tell us if we're getting less traffic, if a campaign is not serving in full, if and it alarms us, and we're like, oh, okay, how would we have done it before?
Right.
Manually logging in and saying, oh, we didn't log in for 8 hours, we missed this,
right.
and so just like little things like that are huge. And I mean, you said it also before about whether it's already AI has been happening. I mean, Google with like Performance Max, or like, all these, like all these tools that all these publishers are putting out are generally AI built tools. And so, whether you're committed to, some major AI strategy or you're not, you're still using AI in marketing.
Yeah. One of the things that fascinates me is like, we're still in the very early phases. To your point about alerting and reporting and optimization based in changes based on changes in the data and whatnot. That stuff, we call that paving the cow path, right? That's just human workflows, because they were all done like by, hey, let me download data from one system, let me download data from another system, put it in a Google Sheet or an Excel file, do some pivot tables and figure out, I need to make this change here, that change there. It's all,
Right.
your point, manual. And now AI can automate a lot of that.
Sure.
But in our view, that's step one, right? And then we go on to step two, where you start thinking about new ways of doing things or new use cases that come out after that. Super Bowl week, Super Bowl's on Sunday. What role does live sports play in your marketing strategy, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, live sports is a big part of Experian's marketing and media strategy. I think we've really leaned into the NFL, college football, March Madness. I think we develop and build campaigns around those times when these seasons and these tentpole events are happening. You able to reach, the unduplicated reach in live sports, and specifically the NFL, is really unparalleled, right? You get even a regional game on Sunday afternoon gets 20 million viewers, right? And it's, we call it must see TV, right? That's like the must see TV, and people aren't changing the channel with live sports like they are with everything else. And I mean, to me, that this is the one medium that hasn't really been disrupted by second screens and fragmentation and everything, because I think people that are fans of the sport are very, focused, on watching the games. And so it is a big part of what we do. And then, from a measurement perspective and from a performance perspective, we look at a broad swath of performance metrics, right? And since it is NFL and it's big, there's brand, right? How, are you breaking through with your brand? So we'll have brand readouts that'll, look at brand favorability, and brand consideration, right? And so like, that's one side of it, but then, you also want it to perform, right? We want it to drive visitors to your site. You want it to drive downloads of our app. And so, we have, attribution platforms, attribution models that have been built specifically to measure this. And the pops that you get coming off of an NFL ad are unlike anything else you can do. And streaming is incredible, and it's an amazing, it's an amazing platform for advertisers, but you don't know when someone's going to stream. You don't have like kind of that immediate impact that you get with an ad. So it's like almost like you feel it. You feel a performing, well-placed ad in live sports.
And everybody watches the Super Bowl for the ads. We all know that. So.
That too.
All right. Steve, thank you so much
all right.
for this conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right.
All right.